The first body was found near the old lead smelter, skin pale and lips blue. Detective Vance examined the victim's hands. Burn marks, but no struggle. This wasn't just murder, it was poisoning, Dr. Cole muttered. The second victim was discovered inside a decaying factory, slumped over machinery. Vance noticed a pattern. Both victims worked at smelting plants. Lead exposure, but this level is fatal, Dr. Cole said, studying blood work. A shadow moved in the factory. Someone was watching. Vance chased the figure, but he vanished into the smoke. The third victim was different. His mouth was sealed with lead. He's escalating, Vance whispered, staring at the grotesque scene. A factory worker nervously admitted, "We've been sick for years." Dr. Cole found traces of a rare toxin. Industrial, but deliberate. The killer left a note. They deserved to choke on their greed. Vance tracked an ex-worker, discharged for neurological damage. The abandoned smelter's basement held horrors. Bottles of poison. The killer emerged, his gas mask reflecting red emergency lights. "You're killing your own co-workers, why?" Vance demanded. "They silenced us, now I silence them," he rasped. A struggle. Vance dodged a swung pipe, firing a warning shot. The mask cracked, revealing a face scarred by chemical burns. The chemical burns told the story. This was personal revenge. Vance remembered the reports. Workers denied medical claims for lead poisoning. The killer lunged, but Vance was faster. Her bullet grazed his arm. Dr. Cole arrived with backup just as the killer escaped through a rusted vent. The trail led to the riverfront, where the smelter dumped its waste for decades. Vance found the killer's hideout, a shack filled with medical records and lead samples. A map on the wall showed potential targets. 6 more names circled in red. Dr. Cole analyzed the list. These are all plant managers who covered up the poisoning. The next target was already in the killer's sights. The smelter's former CEO. Vance raced to the CEO's penthouse, but they were too late. The wheelchair was still warm. The killer had taken him.
A ransom note demanded public confession, or the CEO would die like his workers. Dr. Cole warned, he's not bluffing. The CEO has lead levels just like the victims. Vance tracked them to the old water tower, the smelter's first dumping ground. Through her binoculars, Vance saw the CEO gagged on the tower's catwalk. The killer's voice crackled over an old radio. "Watch what justice looks like." Vance climbed the rusted ladder as SWAT surrounded the base. The CEO gasped. "I'm sorry, we all..." Vance made her move, tackling the killer as the syringe clattered away. The mask came off completely, revealing the face of the smelter's first whistleblower. "David Mercer, your file said you died in the '79 factory explosion." "I did die that day, along with 37 others they erased from history." The syringe contained the same lead cocktail they gave us, Vance. Poetic, isn't it? SWAT moved in as Mercer lunged for the syringe. One wrong step would send them both over the edge. The CEO sobbed. "We falsified the safety reports. The lead, it was everywhere." Dr. Cole's voice crackled over the radio. "Vance, Mercer's not a killer. He's terminal. The lead got him too." Mercer coughed blood onto his mask. "I just wanted them to admit it before I die." Vance made her choice. She holstered her gun and reached out a hand. The CEO whispered the truth into Mercer's recorder. "We sacrificed them for profit." As the sun rose, Mercer surrendered, his revenge complete, his body failing. 3 weeks later, Vance visited Mercer's hospital room, the walls covered in worker photos. Dr. Cole's report proved it. Hundreds poisoned, generations affected by the smelter's lies. The CEO's confession went viral, but Mercer wouldn't live to see the justice he'd sparked. At the funeral, Vance counted 37 empty chairs, one for each worker erased from history. The lead smelter closed for good, but the toxins remained in the soil, in the children. Vance pinned Mercer's badge to her wall, a reminder that some cases aren't about arrests. Dr. Cole published his findings, linking lead exposure to violence in industrial towns nationwide. The last victim's family thanked Vance, but she knew Mercer was the real victim all along. As new safety regulations passed, Vance watched the smelter's demolition from Mercer's water tower. Some poisons linger forever, but so does the truth. 6 months later, Vance's phone rang at 3 a.m. Another body found at the demolition site. The victim was a safety inspector, his mouth filled with molten lead just like Mercer's victims. Dr. Cole made the connection. He approved the original smelter's safety reports back in '78. Vance found a protest flyer in the victim's pocket. The truth still burns. Security footage showed a figure in Mercer's signature gas mask watching the inspector that night. But Mercer was dead, unless someone else had taken up his cause. The next target became clear when Vance found a list in the inspector's office. More names from the cover-up. Dr. Cole warned, "This new killer is different. They're not terminal. They're angry and healthy." The second victim was found in his vintage Cadillac. Exhaust pipe rerouted to pump lead fumes inside. Vance recognized him, the smelter's former lawyer who blocked worker lawsuits. A message was carved into the dashboard. "The air you gave us to breathe." The killings were evolving, less about justice, more about brutal revenge. Vance tracked the gas mask to an activist group, the Clean Air Initiative. Their leader, a fiery young woman named Lina, smiled too wide when questioned about the murders. "Mercer was my uncle," she confessed, but had an alibi for both killings. Then the third victim appeared, crucified against the smelter's last standing smokestack. Dr. Cole made the grim connection. All 3 victims served on the board that voted against cleanup funds. Vance noticed the killer's pattern, targeting enablers, not just decision-makers. Lina's alibi broke when Vance found Mercer's old respirator in her locker, stained with fresh lead dust. As SWAT moved in, Lina broadcast live. "Tonight the world watches justice burn." The live stream showed Lina standing before the burning smelter, holding a detonator. Vance pushed through the protesters, spotting the bombs Lina planted, not to kill, but to spread lead dust citywide. "This isn't justice," Vance shouted over the roar of flames. "You're poisoning children like they did." Lina laughed bitterly. "The poison's already in us. I'm just making the world feel it." Dr. Cole's voice crackled on Vance's radio. "She's symptomatic. The lead psychosis has taken hold." The bombs were a diversion. Lina's real target, the corporate archives that proved decades of cover-ups. Vance tackled Lina just as the first bomb detonated. Not explosives, but smoke canisters of proof. The smoke carried no poison, just millions of microfilm documents about the lead cover-up. Lina coughed blood in the squad car. "The truth is airborne now. You can't arrest a pandemic." Days later, Vance watched the documents go viral. Every victim's name trending worldwide. Dr. Cole testified before Congress, holding Lina's brain, scans showing advanced lead damage. Lina's trial became a referendum on corporate accountability, until she collapsed mid-testimony. Her last words to Vance: "Tell them we didn't choose this war. It chose us." At the memorial, Vance met dozens of lead babies, now adults with tremors and anger issues. The EPA began massive soil remediation, but Vance knew some wounds never fully heal. Vance pinned Lina's activist badge beside Mercer's, 2 sides of the same poison coin. Dr. Cole published groundbreaking research on lead-induced violence, changing criminal profiling forever. On the reclaimed factory site, a single protest sign remained. They knew. Vance finally understood. Some poisons create their own antidotes. 1 year later, Vance returned to the remediated site, now a community garden with lead-resistant plants. A young girl handed Vance a tomato from the garden. "They say these clean the dirt when they grow." Dr. Cole's clinic had become ground zero for lead poisoning treatment. his waiting room always full. Vance noticed new symptoms in old cases, the poison's legacy moving in unexpected ways. The corporate whistleblower arrived anonymously, a USB drive with 80s-era safety override codes. Lina's followers had formed the Truth Collective, archivists of industrial crimes worldwide. Vance found Mercer's final journal hidden in his sister's attic, pages predicting Lina's radicalization. The lead wasn't just in the soil. Water tests showed it had seeped into the aquifer decades ago. At a town hall, angry residents demanded answers. "Our kids have been drinking poison for 30 years. Vance watched Dr. Cole comfort a trembling mother. The damage stops with this generation. The first class action victory came on a Tuesday, $2.3 billion for medical monitoring. Vance noticed her own hand tremor that morning, the same one Mercer had in early stages. Her blood test revealed the truth: childhood exposure from playing near the Smelter runoff creek. Dr. Cole showed her scans. "This explains your relentless drive, lead-induced hyperfocus." The poison had shaped her entire career, chasing justice for what harmed her first. Vance took medical leave, but not before training a new detective on environmental crime cases. Her therapy included gardening at the reclaimed site, pulling toxins from soil and soul. The last document surfaced in autumn, proof the smelter knew about child contamination in 1972. On the anniversary, Vance returned to the water tower. No longer a crime scene, but a memorial. The poison's legacy would continue, but so would the fight against it. 5 years later, the garden had grown into a thriving urban farm, but the old water tower still watched over it. Dr. Cole's clinic now trained young doctors in environmental medicine. His textbooks required reading worldwide. Vance's tremor had stabilized, but her eyes still flashed mercury silver when angry, a permanent reminder. The first children born after remediation were turning 5, their blood tests clean for the first time in generations. When a new detective called about a body found at a battery plant, Vance felt that old familiar chill. The victim was a chemist. His lab notes spoke of suppressed findings about new lithium extraction methods. Vance noticed the killer's signature: a single sunflower left at the scene, roots dipped in something metallic. On the 100th anniversary of the smelter's opening, the water tower chimed for the first time, its rust cleaned to reveal a bell. The sound waves formed perfect patterns in the collected poison, as if the metals finally wanted to tell their truth. And in that moment, 3 generations of fighters finally rested, their work carried forward by the land itself. The Memory Trees Project went global, contaminated communities worldwide planting orchards that bloomed in warning colors. The great-granddaughter discovered something astonishing. The trees communicated through underground networks, sharing pollution memories across continents. Maya's final research paper proved what indigenous elders knew. Poison land remembers in ways science is only beginning to understand. Vance's restored childhood home became the center for environmental memory, its walls whispering stories to those who listened. The NanoCO's son, now gray-haired, donated his family's entire fortune to build memory parks at every former smelter site. On the anniversary of Mercer's death, the water tower bell rang 37 times, once for each worker lost in the cover-up. Scientists confirmed the impossible. The rearranged lead particles formed perfect DNA sequences of the deceased workers. The great-granddaughter held a jar of this memory dust in court, the first non-human witness called to testify. The landmark ruling established land memory as legal evidence, changing environmental law forever. As the last smelter wall crumbled, something miraculous emerged. Sunflowers growing through the cracks had absorbed the pain and bloomed gold. Maya passed peacefully under her favorite memory tree, her ashes nourishing its roots as she'd always planned. The CEO's son found redemption when the trees revealed his grandfather's secret journal buried with the waste, full of guilt and regret. The old water tower became a museum. Its final exhibit showed 3 generations of fighters: Mercer, Lina, Maya. Vance's tremor worsened during stressful cases. The lead in her bones, a permanent courtroom adversary. A new threat emerged. Nanocleaners designed to eat pollution but causing neurological damage in field workers. Maya's prison research group identified the risk first. Their smuggled reports reached Vance via compostable paper. The nanocleaner CEO lived in Mercer's old gentrified factory loft, his penthouse full of industrial chic decor. Vance found a connection. His grandfather authored the original lead safety reports that doomed Mercer's generation. When workers began collapsing at nanocleaner plants, their symptoms matched Vance's childhood exactly. Maya's followers had infiltrated the factories, not to sabotage, but to document illnesses the company denied. The CEO's downfall came when his own son developed the tremor. The poison always circles back. Vance took the son's case pro bono, not for revenge, but to break the cycle Mercer warned about. The settlement created the Cole-Mercer Act, mandatory toxicity testing on all environmental tech, overseen by affected communities. Maya was released to house arrest, her gardening expertise now directed towards safe nanoremediation. On the 25th anniversary of Mercer's death, Vance scattered his, Lina's and Cole's ashes in the sunflower fields. Her last act as attorney was securing the water tower's preservation, its shadow now a sundial over the healing land. As Vance's tremor finally stilled one morning, the nurse noticed her eyes had lost their metallic shine, at peace at last. 20 years after Vance's passing, a young girl placed sunflowers on her grave, the great-granddaughter of Mercer's sister. The Water Tower Museum's newest exhibit featured Vance's iconic tremor, preserved through holograms of her court victories. Maya, now white-haired, still tended the memorial gardens, her ankle monitor replaced by a smart bracelet monitoring toxin levels. The nanocleaner CEO's son had become an environmental prosecutor, his inherited tremor making him relentless in court. A new threat emerged. Memory mining corporations extracting metals from toxic waste sites while erasing the community's histories. The great-granddaughter found Vance's hidden case files, including photos of herself as a baby undergoing lead testing. Dr. Cole's archived brain research proved prescient, showing how heavy metals alter not just bodies but intergenerational memory. Maya recognized the signs first. They're not just stealing our land's metals. They're stealing our stories to avoid responsibility. The great-granddaughter, now a neurohistorian, discovered the mining companies were targeting sites with the strongest oral histories. Vance's old courtroom strategies became playbooks for a new generation fighting memory colonialism. The CEO's son confronted his father's legacy when mining execs used the same old smelter denial playbook. Maya's gardens became living archives, sunflowers genetically coded to store soil toxin data for centuries. The breakthrough came when the great-granddaughter proved lead particles preserve memories at molecular levels. The final court battle wasn't about compensation, but about who controls the narrative of industrial harm. When the verdict came, the mining companies were ordered to return not just the metals, but the memories they took. Maya's final act was planting a truth orchard, fruit trees nourished by reclaimed metals that bloomed different colors each spring. The great-granddaughter took Vance's place at the law school, her first lecture on how poisons become witnesses. The great-granddaughter completed the circle, teaching Vance's methods while the land itself taught new lessons. On the 100th anniversary of the first poisoning, the water tower bell rang clear, its sound cleansing residual toxins from the air. The memory trees began bearing fruit, their seeds containing encoded histories for future generations. The great-granddaughter's daughter refused genetic editing to remove her lead markers. "This is our family story," she insisted. The toxins had finally transformed, from silent killers to eternal witnesses, from hidden poisons to sacred storytellers. As the last direct survivor passed, the memory trees grew taller, their roots cradling the bones of the past, their branches reaching for justice yet to come. The water tower's shadow at sunset now perfectly aligns with Main Street once a year, creating a sundial that points to the future. And somewhere beyond sight, three voices whispered together: a worker, a detective, and an activist, finally at peace in the land they healed. In 2157, a young biohistorian discovered something astonishing. The memory trees had cross-pollinated with urban AI systems, creating living databases. The great-great-granddaughter's VR preservation work allowed new generations to walk with Vance through reconstructed crime scenes, learning environmental law from her ghost. Maya's toxin-sensitive flowers had evolved naturally, their petals now changing color for new pollutants unknown in her time. The water tower became a truth resonator, its bell tones now capable of neutralizing certain chemical bonds in the soil below. When climate refugees unearthed the old smelter's foundation, they found Vance's time capsule, her tremor medication bottle containing a seed now grown into a massive justice oak. The NanoCO's descendants had become leading eco-restorers, their family tremor now a badge of honor worn in DNA tattoos. The memory trees began fruiting seeds containing perfect DNA recreations of extinct species killed by industrial toxins. Scientists discovered the tree's roots had formed a planetary network, sharing not just memories, but solutions across contaminated sites worldwide. When solar storms threatened to erase digital archives, the great-great-granddaughter led the effort to encode everything in plant DNA. The water tower's bell tolled unexpectedly on a windless day, its vibrations revealing a hidden chamber containing Mercer's lost whistleblower evidence from 1979. The recovered footage showed corporate executives laughing about poisoning workers, their descendants now prominent climate justice advocates. Maya's prison garden notebooks became sacred texts, her theories about plant communication now foundational to environmental science. Vance's famous courtroom tremor was recreated in AI law tutors, the shake reminding digital generations that perfect justice doesn't exist. When the first Mars colonists took memory tree saplings, they discovered the plants adapted immediately, singing the old water tower song in solar winds. The great-great-granddaughter lived to 121, her eyes developing the same mercury shine as Vance's, now understood as a biological data storage phenomenon. On the 200th anniversary, the water tower dissolved gracefully into the soil, its metals purified and absorbed by the waiting memory trees. The last physical artifact was Vance's badge, now encased in transparent plant-based resin that grows warmer near injustice. The memory forest declared itself a sovereign nation in 2187. The first country represented by non-human delegates. When the final toxin was cleansed, the trees fell silent for 37 minutes, then bloomed simultaneously worldwide in colors never seen before. And in that brilliant silence, three shadows appeared just once: a detective, a worker, and a gardener, nodding before becoming light.